My job tonight is not a difficult job because this subject is one that I have been studying for the past 7 years myself. And we want to talk about this important subject of mentoring and succession, passing the torch. It's a tough job. I thought when I was preparing for this whole week, I thought to myself, I wonder if I'm ready for this. Because this is really one of the weakest areas of leadership. And if we don't address it, we will still continue to repeat the mistakes of the past. Throughout this week, you'll be seeing a lot of pictures of lions. We have chosen the lion as our symbol this week for the subject of leadership, mentoring, and succession. You may note that many of the graphics that you see will show an adult lion along with a cub, an offspring. I chose this symbol because one day when I was in South Africa, we went to visit one of the parks. A park is obviously a reserve kept by the government where the animals can roam wild and they can be protected. And when I went to visit the park, my wife and I were taken out on a safari and we visited the jungle area, the wild bush. We saw the Big Five. And those of you who are from Africa know what the Big Five is. And the king of all the Big Fives is the lion. The lion is the leader of the animal kingdom. I was intrigued as I had the privilege of watching the lions during a feeding time. Strange. I noticed that there were little cubs around, and I saw the mother lion pick the little cubs up in her mouth behind their necks, took them over to a shaded bush near a tree, and she just dropped them down one at a time. She came back, picked up the other one, and just took them over to the tree and left them there. And then I saw something strange. She then walked away, and they perked up looking at her and never moved. And then she was joined by 4 other female lions. And they all began to crouch toward a massive bull. And the little cubs never moved. And they watched their mothers. Because in the lion kingdom, the father doesn't do the kill. I'm not sure if that translates into humans. But the women go out and get the meat. And then the man eats it. Maybe there's some revelation, gentlemen. We need to ask God to get a lion spirit. But be that as it may, I was intrigued because I saw those lions strategize as they crouched and moved slowly, and they crept among the grass and moving toward that bull who was feeding. And there were about 7 of those bulls around, and they were just strategizing, one position to the left, one to the right, one ran over to the side, the other one stayed back, and they all were positioned working toward the attack. And the little cubs never moved, but they were perked up watching every move. And suddenly I realized this was mentorship going on. This was an opportunity to preserve the future of the bride. Then I realized that the cubs were placed not just near the bush under a tree, but they were actually placed on a little mound where they had a perfect view of the entire action. The mother chose a high place so that they can observe every act. No wonder why the lion is still the king of the jungle. They don't leave leadership training to experimentation. They don't leave it to haphazard mistakes, trial and error. They intentionally train. My job tonight is to talk about this same principle in the human context. The power and the purpose of mentoring and succession, which is the theme of this conference. I want to focus tonight on the art of leading beyond your leadership. Please write that down. The art of leading beyond your leadership. I will say a lot of things that will disturb you, may even make you feel uncomfortable, and that's good. Because we have to grapple with our own internal motives, maybe even question some of our own ambitions, and to check whether they are pure or impure. I want to begin with a couple of statements that focus on passing the leadership to preserve our legacy. Write this statement down. Passing from leadership to legacy. That's what mentoring and succession is. It's passing from leadership into legacy. Some people just want leadership. They don't want a legacy, the way they act. When we talk about leadership, One of the things that we need to remember is that leadership is necessary. The world needs leadership. We all need leadership. We cannot avoid leadership. Here's some realities I came to. Number one, nothing happens without leadership. Number two, nothing begins without leadership. Number three, nothing improves without leadership. Number four, nothing develops without leadership. Think about it. Number five, nothing changes without leadership. If you want to bring change in your family, in your company, in your department, in your country, or in your community, there has to be leadership that makes that happen. Number six, nothing progresses without leadership. You can dream all you want, imagine all you want, hope all you want, but someone will have to step up and take responsibility for that to happen. And number seven, nothing succeeds without leadership. I think this list is long enough for us to accept the fact that leadership is an imperative, necessary. We cannot succeed without leadership. So we're not here to debate whether leadership is important. What we're here to deal with is some of the aspects of leadership that needs to be addressed. This one we deal with is the most important: mentoring and succession. Not only is leadership important and vital, but take a look at this. What is the role of leadership? I thought this through intensely. I've written books on this subject, done research on this subject for years, and I'm still trying to wrap my mind around what is really the role of leadership. And here's one of the thoughts I have distilled. Leadership provides the vision, the energy, the initiative, the motivation, and the passion to inspire others to a noble cause for the benefit of all. That's the role of leadership in any context. Please write this sentence down, because in it is your assignment for the rest of your life. If you claim to be a leader, you must provide, first of all, a vision, but you also must provide energy. Leaders cannot be tired, sick, and complaining. They provide energy. Their very presence is supposed to produce energy in the organization. That energy motivates people. They also must provide initiative. They begin things, they start things, they cause things to happen. Initiative. Leadership provides that. They also provide passion, and that passion must be felt throughout that entire corporate environment. It's a tough job being a leader, because you got to keep all of those things present in order to successfully achieve a noble cause. Here's another role of a leader. Leadership is influencing others to move from the present to the unknown future. That's the job of a leader. Your job is to move people from the known. People love the known. They love the familiar. But a leader's job is to uproot people from the familiar and take them to a place they've never been, and to make that place attractive enough for them to want to go. They actually call this selling the vision. If you cannot make the future more important than the present to the people, you cannot lead them. I want to repeat this. If you cannot make the future more important to the people than the present, you cannot lead them. And so leadership provides that influence. The final thought to summarize the role of leadership is this: leadership is a corporate investment in hope. Your job as a leader is to give people the incentive to want to invest their time, energy, resources, their own personal ambitions in a hope of a future that they believe is better than what they are. That's what leadership does. So take a look at those three sentences and judge yourself. Is that what you're doing? Is that what the people are feeling? Can you continue to do this for the next 40 years? This is why leaders must take care of their bodies, for example. Stay healthy, because you got to provide a lot of energy, a lot of initiative, a lot of motivation. I thought it'd be great to also distinguish great leaders from normal leaders. Here's a thought. The greatest act of leadership is mentoring. This took me 40 years to write this one sentence. I thought that a great leader was one who built a big building or organized a massive campaign. I thought leadership was about building a corporate organization worth millions. This is not the measure of greatness. I find it very intriguing that Jesus Christ, 30 years old, built an organization that is now 2,000 years old. It is the largest company on earth with over 2 billion clients. I happened to work for the company. He started the company with just 11 investors who he gave shares to. They didn't have to buy. And I find it ironic that he never built a building, never opened a bank account, never established a physical institution, and yet his company is still expanding after 2,000 years, which means that greatness in leadership is not building buildings, it's building people. And you should clap, because we are so stuck on wanting our names on buildings, which every day is decaying, and we forget that the greatest investment any leader can make is in people. The second point, the greatest accomplishment of leadership is succession. The greatest act of leadership is what? Mentoring. But the greatest accomplishment of leadership is not a $50 billion company. The greatest accomplishment is succession. Do you know why? My third point explains it. Failure to mentor a successor is the cancellation of leadership legacy. I want to repeat this point. Failure to mentor a successor is cancellation of your own legacy, because you don't live on in buildings or in bank accounts. You live on in people. This is why the greatest leader of all time invested 3.5 years just in people, and he ended his training program with this kind of saying: I pray not only for you, but for them who would believe on me through you. He had this idea of living forever through them. Buildings are bombed. People live on. So we need to consider, what are we prioritizing? I thought it would be interesting, as the opening session for our evening plenary session, to give you a definition to work with. And every speaker should take notes here, because I'm going to give you the definition we should be working with all week. First of all, succession is an amazing word. The word succession begins with the word success. Oh, haven't you noticed? And that is an amazing thing. I did a little research on the word, and I discovered that success has to do, therefore, with three things: movement, continuity, and follow after. And that's what the word actually means in its original state. The word success has to do with movement. We normally think of success as having to do with ending something, but success has to do with movement, with continuity. If your vision dies with you, you failed. Success is not what happens while you are alive. Success is what happens after you leave. This is why the word successive is so important. Successive or succeeding generations. It has to do with continuity. We want to say we want to be successful, so we accomplish a project. That's not success. Success is, will the project exist after you leave? Will there be someone to continue it? You know, one of the ways that God, in his relationship with the people, used to say he would curse them, and I found this very strange. He said, I will curse you by wiping your name out. I thought that was strange. In other words, this is the worst thing that can happen, he says, is for you to not have your name mentioned after you die. Which means that if you fail to produce a successor, you are destroying your name. We won't remember you. I don't want my name on buildings, because a hurricane could wipe it out, or a terrorist act. Success means to follow or to go under. That means you continue something. So succession has to do with preserving success. Write that down. Succession preserves success. Interesting. Whatever you achieve, you need someone to preserve it. Could you imagine building your family business all your life, and then some untrained son sells it after you die for half the price so he could buy some golf clubs? That happens every day. All your life you built a building, build a business, build this massive empire, and then some son or cousin or your wife's next husband, oh my, sells it on the market for half the price. This is why succession is so critical. It preserves what? Success. Write this down. True leadership is about continuity. And that's what this week is about. It's not about you, it's about the next generation. Will you be preserved after you are finished? Not just your life, but maybe even your phase. I thought, as I studied this concept, I thought it would be good to also define succession. What is succession? Succession is the perpetuation of purpose. You keep your purpose alive through a successor. You don't want all of your dreams and plans and ideas to go in the casket with you. So you keep them alive in someone you mentored. So a successor literally perpetuates purpose. So here's my definition of succession. Succession is the effective transfer, conveyance, and transition of the leader's purpose, vision, passion, intent, character, standards, values, morals, and qualities to a succeeding generation of leaders. Long sentence, necessary. You don't just transfer your clothing to them, because clothes wear out. Don't give them your old book or your old Bible or your old shoes, because they're going to wear out. Give them things that stay, like values, morals, convictions, belief systems, passion, vision. These things is what succession is about. Leaving your child a building or a house is not succession. That's inheritance. Whatever a person inherits, they can lose. But if you mentor a person, they can't lose it. Because mentoring is a transfer of the things that are durable, like vision, passion, intent, character. The majority of the leaders we have today don't think about these things we're talking about. Everybody say mentoring. The greatest act of leadership is mentoring. What is mentoring? Make a note. Mentoring is to serve as a model, an advisor, a counselor, a guide, a tutor, and an example for another, in order to produce one greater than yourself. There's a shock. I think you need to write this sentence down in bold letters. When you're mentoring someone, remember, you're not just trying to make a person like you. Mentoring is to make the person better. Mentoring is about replacement with a better product. You should always leave in place someone better. Shocking, isn't it? The average leader today, the one sitting right behind you, don't look now, have no interest in mentoring. They are preoccupied with protecting their position, preserving their turf, making sure no one gets their position. These are insecure, false leaders with titles. A true leader is always training his or her replacement, and the goal is to make them better. When I think about the greatest leader of all times, his attitude taught me so much. He would say things like this: if I don't leave you, then greater works you won't be able to do. But if I leave you, knowing how well I trained you, you will do greater works than I. In other words, a successor should achieve more. You know, I find it ironic, and we'll talk about it this week, that the folks we sometimes call successors are thieves. And you'll be amazed. People who have been given authority would use that authority to destroy what you built. They will steal your power to destroy your accomplishment. Everybody say succession. Succession never destroys the foundation it meets. It builds on top of it. So when people start dismantling things, when they take over, these are not true leaders. They are charlatans who was waiting for an opportunity to destroy you. This is why, again, you must mentor. Mentoring protects what you built. This last one. Mentoring is to intentionally transfer knowledge, insight, wisdom through practical, experiential relationships. Mentoring is more than just observation. It is intentional transfer of knowledge. This is also, again, a sign of good leadership. A person who's insecure in their leadership, they use knowledge to protect themselves. They keep information to preserve their position. Am I coming through here? In other words, they don't want you to know the secrets of the company, because that's how they protect their job. But a secure leader, a true leader, will tell you everything. Why? Because they don't want to stay. Oh, you don't get what I'm talking about. This is a real problem among people who say they're leaders. They will use information to protect themselves. I like the greatest leader of all times, when I think of his attitude, he said, you are no longer servants. Watch him now. He said, because a servant doesn't know when his master is doing. He says, so I call you friends. Why? I have told you everything. He deserves a hand. This is a secure leader. I'm going to give you everything, he says. Why? Because I don't plan to stay. Some of you have your name engraved in your chair in the office, and you have that chair chained to the floor, and there's a seat belt on your chair. I know if I come to your office, there's a seat belt there, and every Monday you click it in, and you say, nobody takes this. You are so sick. True leaders transfer knowledge. They cultivate the inquisitiveness of their mentees. They beg them to ask me questions. Tell me how I did this and why I did this. Ask me. I want you to know what I know. Because the sooner you learn this, I can move on to my next position. Well, that doesn't exist too much in leadership today. I've seen some pastors who actually tie themselves to their podium. They don't take vacation just in case the assistant takes over. These are sick people with a title. I want to give you what I call the 4 leadership failures. Write them down so you won't be a failure. Number 1, the greatest failure of leadership is unsuccessful succession. No matter how great your work was, if you don't leave a successor to continue it and advance it, you failed. Let me give an example that you probably never thought of. Moses was a successful leader. Joshua was a miserable failure. There's a shock. If you read the stories of Joshua and Moses, Moses mentored Joshua, trained him, grew him up, gave him the company. He ended up with 3 million people in the company. A lot of money. He ended up with a mobile tabernacle paid for. The guy had everything going with him. And when he died, he left nobody. I know you probably don't want me to say that. Joshua failed as a leader because he didn't leave a successor. As a matter of fact, when you read the last chapter in the life of Joshua, it's a very depressing chapter that we don't preach about. It says, after the death of Joshua, the children of Israel knew not God. Wait a minute, this is amazing. The first thing Moses gave Joshua was God. I'm not sure what you're doing right now. You're the manager of your department, the leader of your organization, the chairman of your board, the pastor of your church, the supervisor of your division. That doesn't impress me. I want to know what happens when you leave. This conference is to make you go back home and look into your legacy. Who's going to talk about you when you leave? The second failure of leadership, I call it the greatest weakness. The greatest weakness of leadership is mentoring. We don't mentor. And this week we're going to learn why we don't mentor. I'm going to give you 10 reasons why we don't mentor. And you're going to find your personality in that list. The third biggest failure of leadership, I call it a defect. The greatest defect of leadership is insecurity. An insecure leader, which to me is a paradox, the two words don't go together, they contradict each other, but we can use them because people parade around as leaders. But if you are insecure and you have a title, you are dangerous. Because an insecure person will always want to protect themselves, defend themselves. These are the kinds of people who kill their opposition. They don't just fight against you, they destroy their opposition. Insecurity breeds contempt. And the contempt is against those who just attempt to threaten the person. That's a defect. It's a failure. And the fourth failure of leadership, I call it the greatest fear. The greatest fear of leadership is the success of the followers. Have you ever heard this? You can be good, but don't ever be better than me. The moment the follower begins to outshine the leader finds reasons for them to go on vacation, or relocate them to another part of the organization, or second them, or maybe early retirement, or early refinement, or whatever else you do to get rid of people. In other words, we become insecure when people start succeeding around us. How sad. Don't you know that when the people around you are more successful than you, that's a compliment of your leadership? Always remember this. If you hold a man down, you got to stay with him to keep him down. Fear of success of others. It's a great failure of leaders. I thought I'd take you quickly before we wrap this up tonight. I've defined succession. I have defined mentoring. Please get a copy of this CD and DVD. Listen to them 4 times. Get it clear. Teach it to your staff and those who you're training, because if they get this, they won't hold on to jobs too tightly. They won't develop the spirit of entitlement. This is my that spirit. But look at this list in this sentence. Very long list. Leadership is the capacity to what? Influence others. How? Through inspiration. That's very important. Leaders don't manipulate, they inspire. If you have to manipulate people, you are no longer a leader, you are a dictator. Leaders inspire. How? By their passion. Where does passion come from? Passion comes from a vision that they have, bigger than the present, and that vision births in them a conviction, and that conviction comes from their sense of purpose. I put it like this, and you can write this down real fast because I'm going to do this quickly for the sake of time. But purpose is where it begins. Purpose is having a sense of destiny. Your purpose then produces your conviction. Your conviction is a sense of significance. In other words, a leader is someone who discovered that they are important to the world. I remember that happened to me. I had an argument with my creator. I said, I cannot be that important. He said, yes, you are. I said, no, I can't be that important. Don't you know where I was born? Who my family is? He said, look, you are that important. And do you know that this same attitude that I had is common to all the leaders that I've read about? Like when God first spoke to Gideon, he had to argue with Gideon to just believe who he was. When he spoke to Moses, he had to argue. When he spoke to Abraham, he had to argue. In other words, we never believe the truth about ourselves. You are that important. And the sooner you accept it, then the third thing kicks in, and that's vision. You begin to see how to do it. Vision is a concept of the future. And when the vision comes, passion comes. Passion is a deep desire and commitment to achieve the vision. That passion then inspires other people. In other words, passion becomes what I call contagious energy, and that blows air into people. When you become so passionate about something that you're willing to die for it, it gives life to people. You become contagious when you are willing to die for something. Think about all the great leaders that we know. Most of them were in prison. They came out and became great. Once you inspire people, then you can influence them. Influence is when you attract corporate support. You don't demand it, you attract it. People are attracted to your passion. So a leader doesn't look for followers. Followers are attracted to the leader's passion. So if you want people to follow you, don't look for people. Find your passion. And if your passion takes over your life, they'll run after you. This is leadership. And then once you influence people, then they call you a leader. Valuable. The values come from you. It is clear. Inspiration is a divine deposit. It's called the breath of God. It's when you discover why you were born. It comes into your life, and it blows into your life, and it inspires you. You become passionate. The secret to leadership, therefore, is this. It's not the pursuit of power. Leadership is not a pursuit of authority and position. Leadership is a pursuit of self. When you discover yourself, what you were born to do, why you were born, what you were sent here to do, when you find that, the leadership is born. So leadership has very little to do with people. It has to do with self-discovery. It has to finding your passion and pursuing it. And people will find you. Is this making sense? This is why you cannot teach leadership, really. You can teach a person principles to discover themselves, and then the leader is born. All right. Here's a great man. He never took a course in leadership. Never went to leadership college. He has no degree in leadership, and millions follow him. What are his secrets? He discovered something. True leaders do not seek followers. Followers are attracted to true leaders. How? Leadership is not a right that the leader demands. It's a privilege that the followers give. Because you are a leader, because you say you are a leader, and no one is following you, you're simply taking a walk. Following is a privilege people give you. They don't have to follow you. They can leave your church right now. You can't force them to stay. People can resign from your company anytime. So what is it that you do to keep people submitted to your passion? Is to never lose your passion. And you can become tired with your own passion. You need to be renewed. Coming to a conference like this is a good place to come. To get back in touch with your passion, back in touch with your assignment, back in touch with yourself. And an environment like this stimulates your sleeping dream. You go back with energy to start again. It happens. Here's a couple insights I want to give you. True leadership is a result of inspiration, not manipulation. And therefore, the highest form of leadership is inspiration. If you cannot inspire, you have to manipulate. And if you manipulate, you are no longer a leader. Many countries right now need leaders. We need people who can inspire us to believe again, have hope again, in a noble future, in one we're willing to sacrifice for. Leadership. Another insight: good leaders employ people. Great leaders deploy people. Good leaders gather people around them. Great leaders distribute them. Go into all the world. Go. Great leaders love to delegate. Good leaders love adulation. They like to be worshipped. Great leaders deploy. Good leaders employ. Leadership is not measured by how many people serve you. It's measured by how many people you serve. And this is where succession and mentoring kicks in. You want to serve others into greatness. You want to make other people better than you. Leadership is really about releasing people into their own gifts, making other people more successful than yourself. You know, leaders learn from others but never become them. Mentoring is not duplication, it's transformation. Here's another one I thought was important. A true leader is one who leads others to leadership. We are not in the business of maintaining followers. A true leader is more concerned about producing leaders so that they can move on to other things. I remember the statement of the greatest leader of all times. And by the way, I am living on this statement every day. He said this to his class he was training. He asked him a question. It's a powerful question. He said, how long must I be with you? I mean, that's an intriguing question. I run this department. I am the manager. I'm the secretary. I'm in charge. And I tell the folks in my department, look, I'm not wanting to be with you all too much longer. So learn quickly. That's what he meant. Now, the average insecure leader today, not you, the one sitting behind you, our attitudes are different. Our attitude is, I ain't going nowhere. You might as well just forget this part. You ain't coming here. I've been trying to get here for 20 years. I'm finally here. I ain't going nowhere. So they actually they turn the question around. They don't say they don't ask the question this way. How long must I be with you? The question is, how long are you willing to wait for this? We hold on. You're not a true leader. You're an insecure charlatan, feeding like a parasite, making a position synonymous with your value. You know, if you get your value from what you do and who you are as a position, you better never lose your position. If your significance comes from your title, you better never get fired. A leader has found value in herself. She brings value to the position. And when she leaves, they miss her. Am I talking to anyone here? Tell your neighbor, when I leave, you're going to miss me. Clap your hands right there. That's a good place to clap. See, if you bring value to the job, you're going to be the last one they want to get rid of. And if you leave, they're going to wish you stayed. Now, there are some people who leave and everybody say, thank. Why? They were deficits, not assets. So I thought I would give you this concept of succession. Write this down. Leadership marathon. You know, there are two types of leadership. The one we're talking about is the real one. Leadership is more of a relay than a marathon. Now, we've been taught, that you should last to the end. That's one idea of leadership that has really been a problem. Because that's why people don't mentor. Be faithful, they say, stay to the end. That's not good advice as a leader. That's why we got folks who are 80 years old and still trying to be in charge. And you got the talented young lions waiting to do something great for the organization. But there's this old guy saying, well, the Lord say, the race is not to the swift, but those who endure. Yeah, I'm going to die here. This is not leading. No, man. No. That's a marathon. Leadership is a relay. Write that down. What's a relay? Well, here's some thoughts about a relay. A marathon only has one winner. Think about it. When you run a marathon, it could be 1,000 people start. Only one wins. And they get all the glory. But a relay is different. Everyone runs, but they only run their leg. And that's good leadership philosophy. You got to know when you finish your leg in this company, in this church, in this organization, in this government. You ain't supposed to die where they hired you. No, leadership is about a relay. And here's the most important part. Write this down, very important. And that is, leadership is about successful transition. You got the baton now. Now there are people sitting right behind you. Don't look now, but they take the baton home in their pockets. They write their name on it. This ain't your Lord, this is mine. And they actually made a will. The baton shall be in my casket. People are sick. Who can you think of right now in your organization who has their hand open like this? Can you think of them? They're begging you. When your leg is finished, you run out of ideas. You run out of creativity. You run out of steam. Matter of fact, you live on your old experiences. Why is it so quiet in here? Leadership is a relay. Jesus Christ is the greatest leader of all times. And do you know how old he was when he transferred the baton? 33 years old. How long have you been working here? 53 years. Be proud of that. Right here, yes, doing the same thing. I'm an expert. I want to say something, but you couldn't take it. Okay, I'll say it. These are human constipations, clogging up the system. They need to come to a global leadership seminar and get a flush out. Organizational constipation. People stuck in the system because, and don't miss the session this week, because we're going to be learning why they don't move. And some of you are guilty of it. I got to keep protecting myself from it. It is so easy to get caught up in it. But it's a relay. Can you imagine a relay? And one guy just wouldn't pass the baton. Everybody running. They're growing old running. Where is he? He's supposed to be. He's frustrated. Lack of succession. My friends, I put it to you that God wants us to pass the baton. This meeting is about the transfer. Learning how to recognize where you are in the race. Learning how to appreciate the value of getting rid of the baton. And learning that you ain't got to die to celebrate the win. That everybody can still be alive and you can celebrate.
Thank you once again for listening to this message, as we hope that it has been a blessing to you. Our goal is to show you new paths and opportunities so that you can discover your purpose. It is your love, support, and partnership that makes Munroe Global possible. Please visit us online at www.munroeglobal.com for more product, partnership, or to join us at one of our live events around the world.